I want to welcome our listeners and our viewers to episode 2 of the Ampéritif Podcast. As a recap, Ampéritif is a play on words with apéritif, a drink you have before dinner, and amp in Ampéritif is just a nod to the music industry. And so the focus of this podcast is talking to, interviewing, learning from career musicians and entertainers, people who have taken their passion and turned it into a career in that regard. And so my guest for episode 2 is Greg Forton. So welcome, Greg.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So Greg and I have known each other for quite a while. Actually, Greg, I guess, was a career or is a career. I don't know if was is appropriate or if you still think of yourself.
Here's the weird thing about music is you can retire from teaching, So I taught for 35 years and I retired from teaching, but you can't retire from music. It's who you are. It's part of your blood. It's part of who you are. You can retire from teaching because that's what you did as opposed to who you are. So music is part. Once it becomes embedded in you, it's who you are, and you can't retire from that. It'd be like giving up breathing.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. So you heard from Greg there that he was a music teacher. So as I said, as I was about to say, that's how he and I know each other. Greg's second year at Hortonville High School was my freshman year, so 1990. If you're looking for some dates on that, and
that's a long time ago.
I was a freshman in 1990. That was Greg's second year, as I said, at Hortonville High School, and so that's how Greg and I first got introduced. And of course, I'm sure there are plenty of stories that Greg could tell about our time together when I was in high school, and then we spent some time kind of doing our own thing. Greg continuing to teach at Hortonville. And me in and out of music in different realms. And about 15 years ago, we came together in a group called the HASband, a big band jazz band. And we've been playing in that group together for about 15 years. And it's one of the highlights for me is that I, all these years later, get to play with my high school band director, who was so influential in my life and instrumental in guiding my passions and interest in music and why I continue to be passionate about that. So that's how Greg and I know each other and how we're still connected. In addition to that, Greg is also in a group called Forté and the Pianissimos. And so you see him there with his ukulele. And the Forté and the Pianissimos is a ukulele group. Greg is going to play a number or two for us here while we're on the air. And then I'd like to learn a little bit about your story. How does a music teacher from the Midwest end up in a semi-retirement scenario doing tours in Hawaii? So that's a story. I just would love to hear kind of the connections
preface of
there.
what we're going to be talking about today.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of stories along the way, but what I'll say I know is that, there's a connection there in your past that I've seen over the years, I guess, manifest as just a great passion for Hawaii, the culture of Hawaii, and so I've heard some of your stories, probably not all, and maybe we'll cover a few of those today.
Excellent.
So that's my intro for Greg and how we know each other. I did kind of have plans, I'll say, of how should I say it? Of finding some intro music for Greg. I was busy today. I worked later than I intended to, and so I didn't get a chance to put that together. Greg, here is your intro music.
Oh, okay.
Put together at the very last minute.
All right. That sounds familiar.
So everyone, I would like to introduce the guest on Ampéritif Podcast, Episode 2, who you hear singing right now is Greg Forton, and we actually recorded this right before we started the show. I don't think Greg knew I was recording it, but I needed to have a little intro music for my guest, and Greg was gracious enough to provide that somewhat unknowingly.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for that, Greg.
There's always music around, right?
Absolutely. All right, so we're into it now, and the first segment of the podcast is where we're going to prepare a drink.
Uh-oh.
Yes, right. We're going to prepare a cocktail that was inspired by my guest. So this cocktail was inspired by you, Greg, and as Greg knows, I was having all kinds of fits trying to get this to print. So I am going to be just using my laptop here. I like to have a little piece of paper so I can kind of be a little bit more
looking
flexible.
at the ingredients also, and
Yes, exactly. Yes. So again, a part of the podcast sort of format is that we're going to prepare a cocktail inspired by our guest, and so this cocktail was inspired by Greg. The obvious sort of inspiration for me was kind of a Hawaiian theme, given your love and passion for Hawaiian culture, and so the drink today takes some cues, I'll say, from the Hawaiian culture, and so I'll just kind of give you a kind of a brief summary of that. So the ingredients start with a drink that I am going to pronounce okolehao. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or not. Okolehao, but it's Okolehao. And so I'm kind of going with the Latin pronunciation of the vowels.
okay.
So that feels appropriate to me.
So yeah, all the vowels are pronounced the exact same way that they are in Spanish. So all
Yes.
the Hawaiian language.
Yeah, so that would be consistent with the Latin
Right.
pronunciation of vowels. So basically, that not like English where you have different vowel sounds. There's just one vowel
Exactly.
sound for every
Yep.
vowel. Yep. So it turns out that okolehao is, and I don't know if I'm putting the emphasis on the right syllable there, but is a beverage you can only get in Hawaii. I've done a bunch of research. I called every liquor store in my area, and the one that actually was most helpful was the guy from Woodman's,
Really?
who jumped on whatever resources he had and did a bunch of research for me while I was on the phone with him, and basically said, yeah, I can't get that beverage. Nobody can get that beverage,
Right.
unless you're in Hawaii. So this will be one for folks to, if you're traveling to Hawaii, look for this and try it out, and maybe tell us what you think.
We're going to have to put it up on the menu of the Nut Ridge Luau up there. And
Yeah,
make it a special drink that you can only get there.
you should definitely do that. So today we're going to substitute gold rum in exchange, or in instead of the okolehao. Now, okolehao is not a brand; it's a type of drink.
Sure.
So and it's, I don't remember the details, but it's distilled from the root of some plant that's native to Hawaii. So instead, we're going to do
Sounds
gold.
exciting. I want to jump back over to Hawaii
Right,
again.
now
I just got back, but let's go back.
Next time you go there, you're gonna have to tell me about it. But for today, we're gonna go with gold rum. So if you're not in Hawaii, gold rum is a suitable alternative. And so I went with Koloa.
Nice.
This is Kauai Gold Hawaiian rum. So that was our substitute. I just went with the little bottles for today. And so that's ingredient one. We spent a lot of time on that one, but ingredient two is going to be coffee liqueur.
Cool.
And
Is this Kona coffee?
it is
Nice.
actually Kona coffee.
How perfect is that?
Yeah. So again, I found at the local establishment Kona coffee. So of course we had to try to get as much sort of genuine Hawaiian sourced as we could. But the inspiration there is, coffee is certainly a big crop in Hawaii.
Especially the Kona. Every island has amazing coffee. And it's because all of the islands are made out of lava. It's the lava rock, and it's all these fissures that come up. So there's only one island that actually has live volcanoes right now. It's the Big Island. And as the fissures move throughout the millennia, they've got these different lava flows. And so all of the Hawaiian Islands are made out of lava. So it's the absolute perfect soil for growing coffee. And so all of the islands have wonderful coffee, but Kona coffee's near and dear to my heart because I was on a trip with a bunch of students, and we were going around the Big Island. We were on a coach bus going around the Big Island, and my wife started talking about how much she loves Kona coffee. And the bus driver, she turns around, she says, do you really like Kona coffee a lot? She goes, yeah, very much. She said, well, you never guess where I live. My husband owns the largest Kona coffee plant on the islands. So they have a huge farm. So then she asked to be our bus driver again the next day. So she gets on the island and she says, I've got 2 bags of freshly roasted. I roasted it this morning so that you'd have some fresh Kona coffee. So
Yeah, how great is that?
it was amazing.
Yeah. What a neat story. Like I guess it speaks a little bit to the culture. I don't know if they were native Hawaiian or not. But,
Yeah, definitely.
There's definitely just a very very clear, just in that little story, there was passion there. There was a desire to, share, their piece of paradise with
The whole
you
the
and
whole
your
Hawaiian
wife.
culture about sharing their culture and then also sharing the moment, the that a breath, that breath of life, and the alo, which is to share the aloha moment. Always being in the moment, looking somebody in the eye and actually talking to them and speaking to them and being in the moment with each other, sharing this breath is the Hawaiian culture. It's that aloha spirit. When you have that aloha spirit and you are truly genuine, and when somebody says aloha and you're looking them in the eye and you're saying, thank you for being a part of my life. Thank you for taking the moment out of your life and sharing it with me. That's the true aloha spirit. So that's what I love about this podcast. We get to share a drink mix right now that you're creating on the spot. And it's not something that, we're sitting 1,500 miles away. We're sitting 4 feet apart. So this is such a beautiful moment. So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thanks for being here. You were top of mind when I decided I wanted to do this podcast. I said, I've got to spend some time with Greg and just, hearing more about your story, maybe the parts that I'm not so familiar with, because
Sure.
there were a number of years that maybe we didn't interact so much, but
Well, you were busy having a family.
I was. That'll slow you down. Just the passion. Even listening to you talk about Hawaii. To me, passion from you in anything or everything that you do, and it's always been an inspiration for me. So anyway, we're having trouble getting through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The ingredient. No, it's all good.
I'll be quiet.
No, don't be quiet. The third ingredient is coconut milk.
What was the first one?
Okalehao.
There you go.
Coconut milk and then pineapple juice. So I think some obvious references there.
It sounds delicious.
I learned in this process of kind of researching this drink that 30% of the world's pineapples are grown in Hawaii.
They are.
And so that was kind of a neat nugget.
And the other thing about the Hawaiian pineapple, especially the Hawaiian Gold, they call it, it has a higher sugar content. It's
interesting.
It's the amazing thing about the Hawaiian pineapples when they're grown in that lava-rich soil, they come out and they're like candy. You cut them and they're so juicy and candy, and it's so different because people will cut into a Hawaiian pineapple and go, I've never tasted this before. Well, that's because you haven't had a Hawaiian Gold. So it is cool when people come, because then they always want to take pineapples home with them, and we always make sure that's a viable option.
Yeah. I didn't know that about Hawaiian pineapples. So Hawaiian Gold.
Yeah, the Hawaiian Gold, it's Dole Company that that
Got
is
it.
over in Hawaii,
Sure.
but it's the Hawaiian gold.
Yeah.
When you're looking for a label and you want an amazingly sweet pineapple, that's what you're looking for.
So Meredith and I have been to Hawaii. Maybe later we'll talk about some of the trips that you've taken some of your students to Hawaii. Those trips happened after I graduated. No, my wife and I are both graduates of Hortonville, so Greg had the pleasure of teaching us both. I don't think she got to go to Hawaii either. I think,
No.
again, that was after.
Yeah, our first year going to Hawaii was 2001. And what happened was we were originally scheduled to do the London New Year's Day Parade. And so we had already performed over in Europe before. We did Paris with we did the Euro Disney. And then we went over to, we went down to Cannes and Nice and did performances down there. Then we went over to Monaco and did a performance in front of the casino. And then we did Genoa, Italy, and then went up to Switzerland. And then we loved the trip so much that we were planning on going back to Europe again, but we were going to do the London New Year's Day Parade. And we were scheduled to do it. We had already paid out some of our money in order to be there. And then 9/11 hit. And obviously we weren't going to be going overseas during 9/11. And so we'd already sent some of the money over and couldn't get it back. So a friend of mine, Dave Millwood, who he owns Hawaii State Tours, I called him up and I said, I'm sort of in a bind. We were planning this big trip and now we can't go. And he goes, let's just make this happen. Let's get you over to Hawaii. And so on a shoestring budget, he planned an amazing, amazing trip. We were snorkeling with turtles and doing everything. And I had no clue that he could make this happen, especially on a shoestring budget. And I said, you saved not only the trip, but you gave us a trip of a lifetime. You gave us experiences that I didn't even know could exist. Learning the Aloha spirit. The funniest thing was, they learn the Aloha spirit. The students do, and when they come home, all of a sudden the parents are going, "What did you do to my kids?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "Well, we're sitting at the table and they're actually talking to us and having a conversation. They're not staring at their phones." And so it was one of those experiences where I said, okay, we need to do this every 4 years. Every single student that comes through our program needs to go to Hawaii because they need firsthand, they have to experience this Aloha spirit and the culture of the people to really know that they need to be in their place, not their minds constantly out there. They need to live in the moment and always embrace the moment. And so that's what they really learned. And ever since we've been doing that, I said, we've got to continue this. This is something that we can't give up.
So when you think about the trips, when you're taking these trips and you say the students come back changed in some way, I don't imagine everybody goes to Hawaii and comes back changed. And so I'm wondering, what is it about the experience that you're able to provide them in Hawaii that changes them? Like, how do you expose them to the culture in a way that in a relatively short period of time that allows them to kind of come back with that sort of change in perspective?
I don't know that everybody gets the exact same experience. A lot of it has to do with the personality of their director. A lot of it has to do with the personalities of the chaperones and the parents that go along. Mm-hmm. If they're all embracing it and they're really involved and they're really enjoying the moment and the spirit, everybody, it's infectious. If you're having a great time, people around you are going to start having a good time. Smiles are infectious, and it becomes part of what they want to be part of. When you offer students an opportunity to be free and an opportunity to be themselves, and they get to love the moment, they get to smile, they get to have fun with their friends, they get to hug, they get to shake hands, they get to do all the things that kids should just do. And when you give them those kinds of opportunities and know that they're always in a safe zone, nobody's going to make fun of them, nobody's going to treat them any differently. They're all going to be able to be safe in who they are. That really becomes infectious. And we started with 37 kids in our first band back in 1987 or 89, and then you end up with 240 kids because everybody wants to be part of it.
Yeah, so I just want to stop there for a minute. I was in that group of 37-ish, back when you were first starting and I was in high school. And I remember the parades that we did in the summer, the entire band fit on a flatbed.
Exactly.
And so we
didn't need anything else.
We didn't march because we all just went on a flatbed and we played pep band music. And frankly, it was a lot of fun. To think about, so when I would come back and, come back to the hometown and kind of see the band as it evolved and changed, and to think about a marching band of 37-ish students to the 250-ish students that you had,
right?
For many years, that wasn't like it landed there.
We always had this mantra. The thing that we always carried with us was, no matter what you do this year, next year's got to be better. And everybody should have that in life. No matter what you accomplish this year, next year's got to be better. So this mantra of constantly pursuing something better. No matter what the band did one year, I would always go to them, okay, you've accomplished this last year. We'd always had that talk at the beginning of the school year. You accomplished this last year. This was our show last year. This was our jazz ensemble last year. This was our competitions last year. You accomplished this level of music. We're going to take it to the next level. And they ate it up. It was like, we want more, we want more, we want to be better. And so when you do that for 35 years, the students have this huge bar that they have to raise by the time you get done, and it's just so much fun to watch where they've gone.
It's funny you say that. So we had the opportunity. You and I had the opportunity to go back and play an event at the high school, that you retired from and that I graduated from, just a few days ago.
Right.
And I was listening to. We had, I think, starting out with the middle school jazz bands, and then in high school, there's 2 jazz bands. And I was listening to all of this musical talent in this group. And I joked to somebody that I wouldn't make the cut if I was in high school today.
Isn't it amazing?
Because of the level of talent that's there. And you talk about raising the bar and continuing to raise the bar. It's very evident in the level of talent. And, I had a chance to talk to some of the students, and we actually had a couple of them fill in for us.
Right.
And it just, I found it remarkable how, you've got we had a freshman on second tenor and we had a junior on first alto filling in for us. And how that freshman had a story of, I went to state as an 8th grader, and how any student who went to state as 8th grader would come into high school as a first chair, but there's just so much talent ahead of her.
Right.
And I hope that she finds that to be continue to be inspirational, because she's going to learn so much from those older musicians and students, and she'll be better for it.
Right. It is hard. Even the kids who go from middle school to high school and then go from high school to college, because you're jumping into a whole new pond is what I call it.
Yeah.
Because there's new fish, there's new people in there, and when you're going from what you were used to and then all of a sudden going to a new pond, if you're going to a big pond like University of Madison, or if you're going to a college that is a private college, no matter where you go, you want to make your mark. It's harder to make your mark when there's an awful lot of amazing talent there, but there's so much to learn from those amazing people. When they are learning their chord changes and learning their jazz styles, it's so cool to not be the biggest fish your freshman year, because you've got so much growth and so much, such a long way to go. And you can see that early, and you can inspire to that, and you can see these kids just blossom and grow because they see where they can go, as opposed to, hey, I'm the big fish now.
Right, yeah. Well, so we're all over the map. So many things that you've shared have sparked thoughts for me that I've wanted to jump in. But I do want to get back to the drink. I'm getting thirsty.
All right.
And
I'm seeing the ingredients over there. Good.
Yeah,
The Kona coffee is probably going to keep us awake.
I'm standing in front of them.
Is this going to be a drink that we should be drinking for breakfast?
Possibly. I will say that I like any cocktail that has coffee in it because when you get to a certain age, a nightcap is a real thing. Like, it puts you to sleep.
Right. That's my problem. Some people go, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, I still have a few hours that I want to be awake. So I never drink it before 5 o'clock because I'm going to be asleep in a few hours.
Yeah. So a cocktail with coffee, just helps so that you're not taking a nap afterwards. But I was going to say, we were talking about pineapples, and I'll just mention that Dole Whip from the Dole Pineapple Plantation.
Oh yeah, you went to Oahu.
Yes, was a noteworthy experience on our trip to Hawaii.
Very cool.
And any chance we get Dole Whip, we take advantage. So, all right, I'm gonna see how this works here. I think I'm gonna try to. We'll see. I'm gonna turn myself up because I'm gonna go away from the mic here a little bit. But I am hoping that the camera picks this up. It looks like it is picking it up. Yep. Okay. So we're good. And then I got to flip back to my directions. Bear with me a second.
So you were telling me that you get these ingredients and also the mixology. You have a mixologist that helps you out.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're going to make me talk, and I can't talk and make a drink at the same time.
I want to hear the story again. I think everybody needs to hear this.
Yeah. No, this is good. Thanks for reminding me. I actually did mean to mention that today's drink was invented by the Ampéritif Podcast mixologist, Lulu.
Cool.
So Lulu is an Italian expat living in the UK and all around worldly mixologist. And she's been wonderful to work with. We're great to have her for the show. She does tons of research whenever I present a new guest. And I give her a little bit of background, and she will go and do the research and then the drink is inspired, and so far we've had pretty good luck in terms of the quality of the drink, or the people have enjoyed it. But I guess I have to admit, you're only my second podcast. So, but we did try this one yesterday, and
to experiment a bit, huh?
It was. We got good reviews. We were actually. I had some photographers here, and we were taking pictures.
Very cool.
For social media and stuff, just to get something a little bit more professional. And so we made the drink, took some pictures, and then we all tried it. And
you all got wasted before.
That was pretty good.
So all the pictures on the podcast are fuzzy.
Well, it's more true than you know. Because, we had to make several drinks. I had them here, and I didn't want to just do one drink.
We had to try with fresh ice.
Yeah, somebody had to drink them.
All those lights were melting the ice. We have to try again.
Oh, boy, yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to flip back to my directions. And why don't we try this, Greg? I am going to make this drink. And why don't you just, if you don't mind, give us a little music to accompany the drink.
I've got a perfect song. This is written by Randy McSorley, a good friend of mine who's passed away now. But I asked him one time, how many songs have you written? He goes, maybe 800. And he said, there's probably 6 or 7 of them that are really good. But everyone is a gem. He's just a dear friend of us. He was in the Forté and the Pianissimos. He wrote most of our music. And he is deeply missed. But this is one by him.
Wonderful. All right.
A man stumbles up to another patron in a bar. Can I buy you a drink? The patron says while lighting a cigar. Of course, says the second man, I ask you where are you from? From Ireland, says the first man here, have a shot of rum. Well, I'm from Ireland as well, from Dublin through and through. Well, you're not gonna believe it, pal, but I'm from Dublin too. It's such a great coincidence, it makes it hard to think. But since we're both from Dublin, I'll buy you another drink. The second man says, may I ask you where you went to school? The first says, old St. Mary's, the class of 92. This is just amazing, this is just sublime. They shouted to each other right at the same time. Just then another customer asked the barkeep for a cup. He looks at the two and he asks the bartender, what is up? Nothing much, said the bartender, opening the gin. It's just that the O'Malley twins are getting drunk again. Oh, it seems that the O'Malley twins are getting drunk again.
That song is genius. I haven't heard all 800 of Randy's songs, but I'm going to say that was one of the good ones.
He was definitely a blessing. We had so many fun songs because he loves his play on words and he loves his play on different styles of different chords. So, how you doing? Oh, I see you opening up the Kona coffee liqueur.
I'm getting out the Kona, and so we're not doing too bad here. I generally have the way I make food or drinks is to eyeball it.
I see.
So
So we're not using shot glasses. We're just
every drink is probably a little different.
okay.
I have to dig deep here for the coconut milk, so I'll be right back. Do you have another song?
Well, I just want to ask you: is this coconut milk or coconut water?
It is coconut milk.
Oh, okay.
So-
Interesting.
Which is so I opened this up and I don't know a lot about coconut milk, but I opened it up and I asked my wife, is it supposed to look like that? Because it was kind of chunky and like curdled milk.
Exactly. Well, see, here's the thing. When you opened up a coconut and the juice that's inside the coconut, that's coconut water. When you take the white part, the meaty part of the coconut, and you take that meaty part out and you squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, and that white stuff that comes out of there, that's the coconut milk. And you never want to use too much of that. You never want to use too much of that. Because coconut milk, they feed it to children also because it's so full of nutrients and everything. But it's also a natural laxative. So you
Now he tells me. Well,
it looks delicious.
Well, we'll see how this goes.
All right.
Yeah. Maybe the outtakes later will be telling. All right. So this, anyway, maybe just a little bit more on the prep. You combine all the ingredients with ice, and of course we'll publish the recipe along with the podcast. But combine all the ingredients with plenty of ice, and then you shake as hard as you can.
There you go.
For about 10 seconds. So we're into the shaking now. Just now I had this vision of this thing falling apart completely and going all over my mixing board.
Sounds like a musical instrument you have there.
Yeah. We'll call it a Hawaiian shaker.
I saw you sitting there in that old wood desk and chair with your fancy clothes and shoes and pretty hair. Your skin glowed like an angel. I swear I saw your halo. When you winked at me, there was heaven in the air. I carried your books to class. All my troubles were in the past. You and I were an item, yes indeed. I said if you would be my gal, I would give give up all my pals and be there to take care of your needs. We were high school sweethearts, said we'd never be apart. Got married on graduation day, but that's when it started, and now I'm broken hearted, 'cause that's when you stole my heart away. You took my name, you took my ring, oh honey, I thought I gave you everything. Oh, being with you, I was so love struck. You stole my heart when you took my truck. It's part of a song that I wrote for Mile Music a couple of years ago.
That was great. I was going to ask where that one originated.
It originated because I came up with the idea first. Like, you know, every country person loves their truck, right? Yeah, everybody loves their truck, and how much do they love it? And so it was one of those things where you stole my heart when you took my truck.
So it's what would you call the style of music? Polynesian with
that style?
With the ukulele, just generally speaking.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be. The cool thing about the ukulele is you can play any style of music on the ukulele. It becomes a folk instrument if you're playing it in a folk style. It becomes a rock instrument if you're playing in a rock style. It becomes a classical instrument. You got Jake Shimabukuro, who's absolutely a phenomenal instrumentalist on it, and so it can be a background instrument, it can be a foreground instrument. It becomes an all-encompassing instrument, because you can even make it sound like a guitar. So it's there's a bass uke, and it's a sweet, beautiful sounding instrument that's in a tiny little nutshell, and so you get to experience all styles of ukulele music. That's what's really inspired me with it, is because it's taken us everywhere. We've performed in the ukulele festival in Honolulu. We performed up in Nome, Alaska. We performed all over, because this instrument can take you anywhere. People just love to be around. You can't be unhappy with a ukulele, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to say that in my mind it was a combination of Polynesian with country, given the
right.
lyrics. It's very, very much, listening to the lyrics. It's a country, or would that be Western? I don't know.
Country Western.
Okay, so the drink is done.
Awesome. What's sticking in it? That's amazing.
Yeah, let's just get a little view here. This is probably the one we take a picture of, because it's got the little extra. I don't know what you call the top of the coconut, but I didn't save enough of those to make more. Because like I said, I was making these yesterday. But I've got to get a picture of this with my own camera here, so bear with me while we do that quickly. And then remind me, I forgot to take a picture of myself with my last guests.
You did.
So let's make sure we do that.
Make sure we get
before we leave.
Shot.
So let's see here.
Take a shot with the shot.
What do we want the background to look like? I'm going to go with, maybe we get the Kona in there.
Oh, there you go.
Just because.
Put the rum in there.
No, it's these little bottles, but we can throw it in there.
Goes the Hawaiian one. Puakalahunu makekai honolivai mahine ilikea ika polio molakai no kaheke. Vale no, vale leleuka, ohina, ohaha. Ooh, that looks delicious. Wow.
Cheers.
Cheers, my man. Thank you. Aloha and mahalo. Wow.
So aloha, would it be appropriate to say aloha back?
No,
Or-
mahalo. You know,
mahalo?
mahalo is thank you.
Got it. Yeah.
And so aloha is hello, goodbye, and I love you. I appreciate your presence. And mahalo is thank you.
Got it. Well,
Oh, wow. Mahalo.
aloha and mahalo.
This is really good. I mean, beyond what I thought it would taste.
Yeah, I would say it's a hit. So far we're batting 1,000 in terms of everybody that's tried it.
Wow.
It's got a very it's to me sweet.
I'm getting hit in the eye with the stuff that's in the glass.
You
but
can take that off. The initial you get this kind of sweet, kind of hits the sweet part of your tongue first, and then there's that coffee kind of aftertaste, but it's not too bitter. It's just there, you know.
You're taking a guy from Wisconsin who would normally sit down and have a beer going, I'll drink this for an hour.
So a big part of the podcast is now to name the drink.
Oh,
So, of course, this has never been made before. It's a brand new cocktail that we've
Okay.
created in your honor, inspired by you. So let that kind of settle. If something comes to mind, throw it out there. But there's no pressure to come up with the name like right off the bat. We can,
my first.
can come back to it.
We probably have to check to make sure there isn't already one with that name. But my first impression is Hawaiian Delight.
Hawaiian Delight. That sounds like something that's probably out there, but
Well,
we'll pencil
this
it
is
in.
definitely a Hawaiian Delight.
Yeah, we'll pencil it in and then
We'll have to
do some checking.
maybe
Yeah.
find the Hawaiian word for delight and
No, that's a good idea. I was looking around for my pen because I want to write it down, but somewhere in the chaos before the show, I must have misplaced my pen. But I'm gonna remember that Hawaiian Delight, and we're gonna find out what the Hawaiian word is for delight, and that might just be it. Just that word
right there you go.
would be the name of the drink. I think we're onto something. That's
Because you already, especially if it's in the Hawaiian language, you're already talking about, it already introduces that it's Hawaiian. So
right. Yeah, absolutely.
that is lovely.
So
How many more of these do I get to drink while we're doing this podcast? I don't want to start slurring my words.
I have one more of those little bottles of a gold
Well,
rum.
if you're willing to share that, I'll have another one later.
All right, that's a deal. I have some white rum, but I didn't know if I would be able to find this Okalahau, and so I bought these little shot glass versions just as a backup,
Sure.
just in case. And then I went to all these other liquor stores, and of course I didn't find it.
I'm going to have to call my buddies in Hawaii and say, send us.
Send us some,
us a bottle.
and then we'll have to try it again and see is it better. It'll be better, I'm sure. Well, great. So now I'd like to transition. We've kind of been doing this already, Greg, because you're just great at, if I say something that inspires a thought, you're just going to jump in and share that story.
I used to get criticized for having too many stories when I was teaching. People would go, "Yeah, you have more stories than." And then I realized, as my teaching got better through the years, you always try to improve your skill, and I believe that teaching is definitely an art form. And so as I aged, my thought pattern was I want the kids to play more, so I have to use less words while I'm telling a story. So I became better at telling the stories because I could do it in fewer words.
Yeah.
And we also had to play more because I wanted them to constantly be playing. At least 90% of the classroom should have been playing. You do your scales and all that kind of stuff, but because for some of the kids, that's the only time they're playing their instrument. I mean, get real, right? We've got kids who are valedictorians and everything else, and they're just super busy kids. So a lot of them practice, but some of them don't have time. So
So that reminds me of a story, and this is what keeps happening here is you say something that reminds me of something, and then I get off track.
That's all right.
I'm nowhere near where I had planned to be in terms of, the script, if you will. But
We have a script?
call it an outline.
All right.
So when I was in high school, and I don't know how much of this you'll remember, but I was in the only jazz band. We didn't have two; we had one. Mm-hmm. And I was first tenor. And what you might know about big band is that a lot of the solos go to the first tenor. And I don't know if there was a chicken and egg there, what came first, but I turned into a bit of a showboat. That kind of.
It was fun to watch.
There's some personality that that came out in that experience. And jazz band turned into like the great outlet for me musically. And so that, was kind of where I found my passion. But anyway, so because of that, there were kind of two big awards that were given out in your senior year of high school. There was the Louis Armstrong award, and then there was the John Philip Sousa award. And because jazz was my thing, I really wanted the Louis Armstrong award. That was the one that I wanted. And if I recall, the way I remember it was that we had the band vote on who.
Right. The seniors of the jazz ensemble always got to vote on who was going to win the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. And
Yep.
the critique was, who do you think gave the most to the group? Because it was by audition group only. So it was who do you think really gave the most and really made our group better?
Yeah. So, being the lead tenor and, getting to do a lot of the solos and kind of show off. And, I felt like kind of a shoe-in. That was like mentality. And plus, my girlfriend at the time was the second tenor. And so I figured, well, I got at least one vote.
Right.
Got that in the bag. So I should have this locked up.
Right.
And so the voting came in, and I didn't get it.
Oh.
I didn't get the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. And so of course I was really bummed. I did get the John Philip Sousa Award.
Which is considered a higher level award.
It is, and
But to you, that was like a slap in the face.
I do genuinely appreciate it. But I wanted, the other thing you should know is that I had two brothers who had the Louis Armstrong Award.
You wanted to keep it in the family.
And the John Philip Sousa Award. So
but by the time that I started teaching, I never gave it to the same person.
Right.
I always felt that it was important to spread the wealth, so to speak.
Yes. Which, as an older, more mature adult, I completely buy into. But for me, I wanted to be on both those plaques, just like my two older brothers, and sort of just, keep that alive. So it was a big hit to the ego when I didn't get the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. And the real, learning moment for me was the conversation I had with my girlfriend then afterwards. So, of course, I was bummed, and I was talking to her about it, and I said, yeah, I'm really surprised I didn't get that award. And I really thought that, I was a shoo-in for this. And so then I said, well, you voted for me, right? She got really quiet.
Ouch!
And so then I went, you didn't vote for me? And she goes, well, you never came to practice.
Oh.
And so then, the conversation kind of went, why that was important. So my retort was, well, I didn't need to practice.
Oh, yeah.
I was kind of being cocky, right? Cocky teenage boy. I was, did I ever let anybody down? I played well. And, and she's like, yeah, but we needed you there.
Sure.
We needed you there. And that stuck in my head. That was what, almost 30 years ago?
Sure.
That stuck in my head. Till this day, in terms of that learning moment, just very profound,
Those teaching moments are amazing. When those things happen, and when those light bulbs go off for students, as a teacher, those are the moments that mean more than anything you can do in a classroom. Sometimes they happen in the classroom, but it's always that learning moment when those light bulbs go off, and you go, oh, that person just became a better human being, and
Yes,
they've inched their way up to who they're going to be as an adult, and it's so cool to see those happen.
Yeah, for sure. So again, you and I are probably bad together because we're just going to be all over the place. But
You know what's weird about awards? As a teacher, I hated awards because every kid is special, and every single student you've got has characteristics that are amazing. But when it comes to handing out awards, you have to pick specific people. You can't give them to everybody, right? That'll be like a participation award, then it means nothing.
Right.
So out of all of the students you've got, and what happens on those years, and so as a band director, this doesn't happen all the time. It happened to me about 3 times in my career, where on a given year, you've got top students, the best of the best, sitting on every single instrument. Sometimes you'll have the absolute best brass and percussion ever, but maybe your woodwinds are lacking a little bit. Maybe they're young, maybe they just have a couple years to grow. And sometimes you'll have outstanding woodwinds, and maybe you don't have the percussion line that you wanted. And so a good friend of mine who was a band director for many years in Appleton West, Ike Spangenberg, he's the one who said, how many times does it happen for you? Because every band director knows this. It's like, when is that year that it all comes together? Mm-hmm. And when those years happen, it's magical because you can play anything. We played Rhapsody in Blue, Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue one year. I had this student.
Absolutely love that song.
Every single section of the band was the top. They were amazing, and I had this percussionist, and she also played piano, but she played competitive piano all over, and she was amazing at piano to the point where the piece that she was playing wasn't on the list for solo ensemble.
Because it was too difficult?
It was too difficult. It wasn't even considered on the list. So
I didn't know competitive piano was a thing.
It's out there. People are doing this all the time. So what happened was she said, well, so I called the state to see if we could add this piece. And they said, well, there's already 30 pieces on the piano list. We're not going to add another one. So I brought her the bad news, and I said, you're not going to be able to play that piece. She goes, it's okay. I'll just practice a different. We're talking a month before solo ensemble now.
Uh-huh.
So she picks a Bach piece and she nails it. She goes to state on it, all by memory. So We're doing Rhapsody in Blue, and we're playing and we're practicing. And I bought her because it was extremely expensive as a band arrangement. But I bought it, and I thought, this is the year I want to do this. So she gets the music, and she's got the solo piano part, and she's learning it. And she said, I was listening to a recording of this, and it doesn't sound exactly the same. Her name was Rachel Hart, by the way. You need to know that.
Yeah.
And her dad was a math teacher in our school. And so
I remember it. I had him when I was in high school.
And so
no kidding.
She was a fantastic musician. And so she comes to me and she says, the music that you gave me isn't the same as the recording that I've been listening to. So I listened to the recording that she was listening to, and it was a duet. It was a piece that 2 people put together to come up with the Rhapsody in Blue pianos.
Okay.
But it was a duet part. So she said, could you order me the duet part? And I'm thinking, we don't have another piano player as good as you.
I feel like I know where this is going.
She takes the duet and she learns both parts of the duet.
Oh my gosh.
And memorizes it.
That's
16-minute piece we're talking.
That's not just commitment, that's passion.
It was over the top passion.
Yeah.
Because it was cool. So a friend of mine, Mike Twombly from Thompson Hill Studios, I called him up and I said, we got to record this. This is going to be epic.
Yeah.
And so he came out with all of his equipment, and we recorded the whole thing, and it was a beautiful moment. Those moments don't happen all the time as a band director, but that was one of those years. In my last year also, I said I left Hortonville in a good place because so many amazing students on every instrument. So no matter what, the program was going to go on, but I also left it in the fantastic hands of Brianna Wozniacka, and she took it to the next level. You know, she was. I'm so pleased with what Hortonville is doing, but you never know when those years are going to happen where every instrument is just covered.
Comes together. Yeah. There was something in there that I had a thought on, but I think I lost it.
Well, you know, when I was talking about the awards, I know I'm backtracking a little bit, but I had a year back when you were in, and this girl won this award, and she won the Most Improved award, and she started crying hysterically that she won this Most Improved award, and I said, you know, congratulations, and she was embarrassed. She said, "Does this mean I sucked before?" I said, no, you just came so far from where you were. But she just took it the wrong way. Sort of like you not winning the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. It's like you never know what effect you're going to make on people by giving them an award. So I always dreaded giving awards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that, especially when you get to the point where you've got 250 some odd musicians in multiple bands, and how do you recognize everybody's hard work? And
definitely,
yeah, I can totally understand that. So I remembered what I wanted to say now around Rhapsody in Blue and that performance. I didn't see that performance, but I can imagine if I did, I would have been choked up. And that's one of the things that happens to me when I hear really good music. Doesn't matter who's doing it or what kind of music it is, but when it's really well done, it just hits this very emotional chord inside of me, and I just get choked up. And
you know that feeling that you get in the back of your neck, and they also call it goosebumps, right? In Hawaii, they call it chicken skin. So
it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's that feeling that you get that, it's like beyond consciousness, because nobody has to say this is good music. You just know it is.
Right.
And sometimes you're listening to, and it's usually live when you're listening to it. Once in a while, I'll hear a recording of somebody, and that'll happen. But usually in the moment when it's live and you can see the person on stage, those are the times that really mean a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that the version that she was listening to was going to be the one by Benny Goodman.
Oh,
because that's the classic one that I think
Sure.
most people have probably heard. But a duet, she learned a duet.
she took both parts home,
and-
learned both parts, and then put them both together.
So what is she doing today? Do you know?
It's so hard because
she's probably an accountant or something like that.
It's interesting about music is for some students, like in the Suzuki method, the students they start learning music at a really young age. And what music is doing is it's training the brain, and it's making the brain think in quantum, being able to understand things outside of the normal realm. And it really is deep, and I don't completely understand all that happens with the brain, obviously, but it's so cool that students who study music end up being your doctors and your lawyers, and so music within your community is bringing up your entire community. And when it's happening on a regular basis, and the students are being recognized, and it's not just being recognized, it's also, you can tell the communities immediately that appreciate their music, because they usually end up having a huge level of the valedictorians, the salutatorians, they're always in the band, in the choir, and they're always performing at really high levels. And so when you've got a community that is really supporting music, you see a ton of doctors and lawyers and professionals coming from those schools. And so many years ago, I believe it was the California schools decided, we just want to we want to focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, You know, because
just the academics.
we just want to do
Yeah.
the academics. We're going to not put a lot of things into sports, not put a lot of times into music, no arts. We just want to put the academic because that's why they felt that's why our scores are going down. But what happened was when they took out the arts and took out the sports and took out the things that the kids were really getting involved in, all of a sudden their numbers started going down. And so then they had to start bringing them back in again. And it's so hard to bring something back once you've lost it. We fought to have a fantastic music program in Hortonville. There was a time where they wanted to cut the minutes of art, music, and Phi Ed. And they wanted to cut them by 15 minutes per week. I think it was 15 minutes every other day. They wanted to cut that, which ended up being 45 minutes a week in the elementary schools. And we realized how important that time was to the kids.
Right.
You know, there was so much research behind how important that time was. And so the superintendent came to me and said, you know, we've been getting a lot of phone calls because we're going to have a board meeting and we're going to talk about the art, music, and Phi Ed, and we're going to reduce the minutes so that we can bring in more math, more science, more English. And I said, well, okay. He said, well, would you set up a sound system in the library so that more people can attend the school board meeting?
Okay.
And I just said, well, I'd be happy to set up a sound system. No problem. But I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't think it should be in the library. I think it should be in the gymnasium. And his eyes got big and he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I just have this feeling that there's going to be more people than are going to fit in the library showing up. And he said, really? I said, you don't have to trust me, but you know, that's just my feeling. And so he said, well, let's do it in the gym. 800 people showed up.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were livid. They did
Sure.
not want art, music, and Phi Ed cut out of the program. They didn't want even reduced out of the program.
Right. Yeah.
And so before the school board left, they had to promise that they weren't going to cut the art, music, and Phi Ed.
That's outstanding.
It was.
That's
and
outstanding.
From that moment, because of that one situation that happened, it was never touched again. It was known that art, music, and Phi Ed are extremely important in our educational process. And it wasn't just music, it wasn't just art, it wasn't just Phi Ed, it was the whole,
Yeah.
you know, we want to educate the entire child. We don't want to just educate bits and pieces.
Right. Yeah. So you actually reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about earlier, and that is culture. And I was thinking about when I asked you the question of how does a trip to Hawaii change a person? Like, how do you enable that change, or how do you create that environment? And what I heard you say is that it's about culture. And what I mean by that, there is, going into the trip, there is this culture of, this is going to be a life-changing event for you. You know, so that comes from the top. That comes from the music director. And it kind of spreads out through the students and through the chaperones in terms of go into this experience expecting to learn, expecting to grow.
Yeah,
And
I
you
always tell
set
my
that-
students, they have to be a sponge. You know, when you go into any situation, don't expect that you know everything.
So in that culture, you know, that you've sort of created in the school that you took with you to Hawaii is something that really kind of like it creates this sort of fertile ground for them to go into that experience with a mindset of, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to grow, this is going to be a life-changing experience for me. So you just create that openness in them going into it. And so you answered my question. That was my interpretation. Like, how do you do it? How do you create that experience? How do you make it so that it changes them? And that was my interpretation of what you said. I don't remember exactly what you said.
Well, Every student should, adults need to do this too. When you're in any situation, especially if it's a situation where you've never been before, the typical thing is to put up a wall and to get very distant because you're always thinking, well, I know what to expect. I know what, and put that aside, relax, get rid of that wall, walk into any situation and go, I'm going to be a sponge today. I'm going to listen. I'm going to look. I'm going to try to take in as much as I possibly can. And when I leave here, all the good things that I learned and all the good things I absorbed, I'm going to make part of my life. And if there was something negative that I didn't agree with or didn't approve of, I can leave that behind. And when my students would walk in the door at the very first day during summer band camp, they would walk in the door. And, I knew that there was a little bit of this pretense of what's going to happen. They're nervous, especially the 8th graders. They're nervous coming in. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, before we even get started, you see that garbage can over by the door? It's a big garbage can. It's always going to be there every single day. When you walk in here, if you've got a bad day going, if you've got a bad attitude happening, if you think that something bad is going to happen, just take all of that emotional baggage that you have and throw it in the garbage on your way in the door. When you walk in, sit down, relax, take a deep breath, and let's learn. And when you go to leave at the end of the classroom, if you feel that you need to take that back with you, reach into that garbage can and stick it on you. But there is no emotional baggage while you're here. We're just going to learn. We're going to be part of the moment. We're going to live in the moment. And so the students knew that the band room was a safe place.
I love that.
The students knew that, that was their second home. We were their family, their second family, obviously. But it was always a place that they could walk into and go, no matter what's going on outside, and that's just the thing. Teachers don't know what kids are experiencing outside.
Right.
Sometimes they come from not so good, home styles. Sometimes they might be dealing with emotions outside of our control of what's going on in the classroom. But if they can come into at least one classroom and go, I feel safe here. I feel like I'm accepted. I feel like I'm safe. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to judge me. I'm just going to be myself for 45 minutes or 90 minutes or however long your classroom is. That is such an important part of their life.
Yeah. So there's so many thoughts that I kind of want to go in a couple of different directions. So I'm gonna do a couple things. One, I'm gonna finish a thought, and then I'm gonna take what you just said, and I'm gonna pivot to kind of the passion topic. But so going back to the culture thing, you told the story about the school board meeting and the decision to not cut. It was sports,
art, music, and FIAD. Yeah,
art, music, and FIAD. Not to cut those things. And 800 people showed up to a school board meeting. And, I don't know what a typical attendance at a Hortonville school board meeting was, but I'm sure it's not 800. And there's this, to me, again, I'm going to use the word culture. The community has this culture where they value those activities, those, those skills, the experience that those kids are getting. And so that community brought that culture to that meeting. And this is something that I've thought about recently in the vein of the experience that I had growing up. I grew up on a dairy farm, and music was an outlet. So it was a hard upbringing in terms of being asked to do a lot of work on the farm. It was a family business, and we were all involved. And so that limited the things that I could do. But music was one of the things that I could do. I couldn't be in all the sports and all the extracurriculars, but I could do music. And part of the reason I could do music was because it was on the curriculum. It was part of the school day.
Right.
I didn't have to go, after school where I would have been milking cows or before school.
Music is not an extracurricular. It's a curriculum.
So it was, so for that reason, music was something I got to be a part of in terms of, my opportunity. And so for that reason, it was an outlet. for me. It was an escape in a way from the lifestyle, the hard lifestyle of growing up as a farm kid. Now, to be fair, I cherish that upbringing. I would not change it for anything, but it's different. And in today's day and age, I feel like we've lost some of that connection to our roots. When you think about going back even just a couple of generations, most of us were farmers. And there's something about working with animals, working with the earth that I think it's grounding,
Right.
in a way. And so it creates a certain humility. It creates a certain work ethic, certainly. But for us as a family, music was not an outlet just for me, but for my siblings, for my parents. And so there was generations of music and a love for music in the family. And we immigrated from Germany a couple generations before me, but so polka was a common thing in our family. And specifically, my dad played the accordion. And there's stories about each of us kids learning how to dance the polka with my dad in the barn, like in the alley in between the cows. Here's how you how you can dance the polka. And so, and then because my dad was an accordion player and a bass player, I had a band for about 40 years. And so on Sundays, when we weren't working the farm, we would go watch him play.
Sure. One of the things about culture is that, obviously it comes through the generations, but it also interprets what your school is like. It also interprets what your language is like. It also interprets what your meals are like, whether you're celebrating Christmas and or Hanukkah or anything. It's the culture that you grew up in. So when I first started teaching in Hortonville and I came to a farming community, I was teaching in an inner city before that in Battle Creek, Michigan. We didn't have any farmers in the
Yeah.
So our concerts were always at 6:30, 7 o'clock. So when I came to Hortonville, I said we were going to do a concert at 7, and they came to me and they said, "Sorry, you can't do a concert at 7 o'clock. You have to wait till 8."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, okay, but I don't mind. But why?" And they said, "Well, the farmers have to go home after school. They have to get in their chores, and then they can come back after their chores, do the concert, and then go back and finish up." And I'm going, well, that makes perfect sense. 8 o'clock it is. But it's interesting how the culture, had I just been this bull in the china shop and said, heck no, I'm going to do it at 7 o'clock, I would have half the amount of kids. You have to live within your culture and embrace that, and I was living in a farm community, and we were embracing everything. Hortonville's very first band ever, so when Hortonville first started, and Arthur Hastings started the whole first music program in Hortonville. When they had their first marching band, their first uniforms were the milking uniforms. The
kidding.
all white with the white hat and the whole works. That was their marching band uniform back then. I mean, talk about putting the culture of the area into what they're learning.
No kidding. Yeah. Well, so again, as I think about, have we lost something generationally? For me, because of my upbringing, music became an outlet. And I would say my own kids, not growing up on a farm, maybe didn't have that same need for an outlet, or maybe their outlets were a little bit different. Technology enters in. And so, I wonder sometimes if they would have been more passionate about certain things like music, had the need for an outlet been there. So anyway, that's the thought that I was trying to have. But now I do want to transition. And so our conversation has kind of been all over the map, and that's fine. I love the organic nature of it. And at some point we'll edit something together that will hopefully be, enjoyable for our audience.
Just put it on.
Oh, hey, one more thing. We'd love it if you followed us on social. Ampéritif on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok,
and Pinterest, and Ampéritif Podcast on Instagram.